Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger, and up next on the GM, we're going to be discussing AFC news and injuries. Do me a quick favor as we get started. Hit like. If it is your first time checking out the GM, hit subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's go. So let me start out with a few announcements and updates so that you know what's going on with the GM when you start seeing new things pop up. Excuse me. First and foremost, I want to talk about the six new segments we will have every single week, brand new every single week. Okay. On Mondays, now that the season is underway, we will have a segment called the Monday After. The Monday After is a review of all the biggest matchups, maybe even some highlights, and we'll just talk about outcomes and just kind of what we learned from Sunday's list of games. Okay. On Tuesday, we will have an episode or a segment called Biggest Performers and MVP Leader. The MVP race is certainly underway, and we believe Tua Tagovailoa set the pace in that first week. And so every week we will kind of update our race, who's in first, who's in second, who's in third, and we'll talk about all the big performances in all the major categories: passing, rushing, receiving, tackles, interceptions, and sacks. And so that'll be just a fun segment to kind of celebrate who balled out from the previous week. On Wednesday, we will have the segment called Biggest Matchups. It's where we set the table for what we deem the biggest matchups of the week. We will always have the Ravens game highlighted in that segment, only because we're a Ravens first channel. So you'll see that come out on Wednesday. On Thursdays, you'll have this segment that you're seeing today called AFC News and Injuries. There may be a little bit of an addition to this. I'm not sure, still planning for this segment, but you'll see that come out on Thursdays. On Fridays, like always, you will see game predictions. So this is where we will predict who will win the biggest matchups. You'll get some stat line predictions, things like that. Um, on Saturday, you will have Keys to Victory. This is a Ravens first segment where we highlight and talk about what the Ravens need to do to win that week's game. So that'll be the six segments that we have, and then of course on Sunday it'll just be the post game reaction. um, Let me also do this. We will have a brand new segment called Burning Questions. And this is where we here at the GM, we scour the internet looking for questions that people are wanting answers to. Again, this is a Ravens First channel, so we'll always talk about what's going on with the Ravens first. And so this segment will come out probably for the first time next Tuesday or Wednesday. And I do encourage you guys to jump in there, listen, find out what people are wanting to know, and also be encouraged to put your questions in there. I promise every question that you ask, we will certainly do the segment and provide an answer to. That this will also be a weekly segment. So that's what's going on with the GM. Excuse me. Now let's get into the topic for today: AFC North news. So there's not a whole lot of buzz in the AFC North right now. The biggest news from Wednesday into Thursday morning is just the injuries that a lot of teams suffered last week. The AFC North suffered some huge blows on the injury front. The Baltimore Ravens, of course, you guys know, we suffered major injuries to the secondary with Marcus Williams. We suffered a major injury with J.K. Dobbins, lost for the season, to an Achilles injury. That's the running back room. We suffered two big injuries to the offensive line. Both Tyler Linderbaum, starting center, and Ronnie Stanley, starting left tackle, are both out. And when we moved to the Cleveland Browns, they lost Jack Conklin. I'm not sure at this point if it's for the entire year, but he is certainly out for the immediate future. The Cincinnati Bengals didn't suffer any major injuries. They have a pretty light, pretty clean injury report coming into Thursday. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, they have already ruled out Deontay Johnson, wide receiver. They've already ruled out Cameron Hayward, who has to have surgery, and Pat Fryer moved starting tight end. He has a questionable status. So the news for today, going into Sunday's game, is going to be uh, injuries. I mean, really, truly, and honestly, it's going to be injuries, and not only injuries, but who are the replacements? How will the replacements perform in this new starting role? For Pittsburgh, who will replace or step in for Deontay Johnson? If Pat Fryermuth can't play, who steps up? Who balls out in his place? I know they drafted a young, talented tight end out there in Pittsburgh, so he certainly will get an opportunity if he's healthy. I didn't look him up and see what his status was. Um, in Cleveland, who's going to be the replacement at right tackle? They have a rookie who stepped in last week and looked very serviceable. And so Cleveland could already have their plan in place. But in Baltimore, um, will Geno Stone, the question would be, will Geno Stone hold his own? Now, Geno Stone has been a guy who has performed well when he's had opportunity. He will come downfield and hit. He will mostly be in the right position as it pertains to coverage. So, what will Geno Stone look like in his replacement role this week? What will Sam Mustipher do at starting center? I believe that will be the lineup for the Baltimore Ravens. Will be Sam Mustipher at the center position, and then Pat McCarry filling in for the left tackle Ronnie Stanley. And then I suppose that the Baltimore Ravens will either move up Melvin Gordon to the active 53-man roster, or just activate him for this week's game as a depth piece for the loss of J.K. Dobbins. So I think that is the news for this week. How will the replacements play? It's an interesting time in the AFC North, because in recent history, now this is just limited by what I can remember, but in recent history, I think this is the first time where we've gotten all of the AFC division foes on the same um, day, excuse me, on the same week. This early in the season, week two, to have the Bengals versus the Ravens, to have Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. I don't remember a time in recent history where this has happened. So these are going to be super pivotal games this week. Will Pittsburgh go down 0-2? Will Cleveland take a stranglehold lead early this season in the AFC North? Will the Ravens, um, you know, uh, wade through all these injuries and come out with a victory? Will the Bengals get their offense going? Those are all big time storylines. And so that's where the AFC North division is this week. Other teams suffer some major injuries. Of course, we understand Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. New York Jets, and that's such a New York Jets thing to happen, where you make a big trade, you put yourself in, playoff contention, Super Bowl contention, and the guy you signed goes down. Now you're right back to Zach Wilson, the guy you didn't want. It's kind of crazy to think about it that way. And then the guy who stepped up and played well last year, you let him walk to a division foe in Mike White, who now plays backup for the Miami Dolphins. That's such a New York Jets thing to do. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to clown them, but when you think about how that thing unfolded, that is such a New York Jets thing to happen. That falls right in line with something like the butt fumble, who will live in infamy for sure. Um, Around the league, man, a lot of big time players went down. DK Metcalf left week one, from what I can remember, with an injury. Seems like Justin Jefferson may have left early with an injury. Um, Let me think around the league. The Carolina Panthers lost their starting corner again, J.C. Horn. Um, just a lot of injuries around the league, and so this season really is going to come down to a real test of wheels. Whose GM has really constructed the roster with adequate depth, and I think it's going to be a test of wheels. Let's jump back to the Ravens as we close out this segment. I think that for the Baltimore Ravens, um, I think that there's a couple of things they must do, which we'll definitely highlight with some intensity on Saturday morning segment. But I think right off, I think that they uh, need to just make sure they make the decisions on who's going to be the starter in both those offensive line positions now. Don't play with it. Don't ponder. I mean, you kept some of these guys on the roster for a reason, and so was there other guys out there besides Sam Mustipher? Certainly it was, but you decided to keep him. So it must have been something you seen or we seen in order to keep him around. Patrick McCarr, you paid him for a time like this, and so we want to see those guys show up. So go ahead and set the line now, and then you can always make adjustments. One thing I would like to see. This is not a key to victory, but something I would like to see. I would like to see them trot out Daniel Falele, a 6'8", 350 plus pound monster. I would just like to see him come out and create some intimidation, get his hands on people, and push people back, to kind of help power that run game. I would like to see him line up, um, on the left side, as the Cincinnati Bengals do have a really good defensive front on the left side beside Macari, just to offer some extra protection and really kind of let him play a dual role, line up on the outside at right tackle, outside of the right tackle, excuse me, line him up on the outside of the left tackle and kind of just allow him to offer some extra protection, but not only just run out of that set, but also allow him to, um, what's it called? Um, pass block. Yeah, pass block out of that set. Excuse me, I had a lapse of thought for a moment, because I think that what we're seeing from Mark Andrews may say more about him not being ready to go Sunday. And my perspective, since this is an injury news and injury section, um, what I would say for Mark Andrews, if he's not ready to go, don't play him. It does not benefit us and it does not benefit Mark Andrews' long-term health to play him if he's not ready to go. On Wednesday, he had a limited practice, and which says he's not full speed yet. So give him another week. That's the purpose of using Daniel Falele. Use him as a sixth lineman, and then you put less pressure on Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar to do what they're not extremely gifted to do, which is run block or pass block, which will allow you to go into a three wide receiver set, Odell, Bate, Zay, something like that. Again, this is not keys to victory. That's on Saturday, but I am, I just do want to talk about some thoughts that I have. I would like to see that add that extra protection, put those three guys out in the route, and then you still have an ability to use a running back. Would like to see Justice Hill alongside Gus Edwards in this week. Justice Hill is probably the better excuse me, not better wide receiver, but better receiver of the two. Um, and so I certainly would like to see Justice Hill also get some screens, also do some dump offs, things like that. So even when you go six linemen, you can still have that extra receiver that Lamar Jackson can get the ball to. So those are my thoughts, man, about the AFC North and AFC North matchups this week. Again, the theme of this week is going to be injuries and their replacements. So let me know what you guys want me to know, man. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us, man. Stay tuned for all the new episodes. Really be thinking about, burning questions, man, things you guys want answered, things you need to know, or just things you want to say. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and we are out.